This is what I was talking about. We got two Kenny Olivier matches on the same show, and the most offensive thing I've ever seen. Nyla Rose and fucking Riho. Besides the fact, everything we've talked about, the announcers have said, oh, she's a 13-year pro. She started at 9. Her forearms, everything she does is just embarrassing because fuck. Just fuck. 90 fuck. I think somebody said 93 pounds instead of 98 she was listed at or whatever. But just the whole thing from burying the announcers to, once again, Nyla Rose was buried by beating her in this match because what the fuck? They went 2 segments. Nyla Rose had to keep selling for this idiot. She hits that knee drop off the top rope to the back of Riho's head, and Riho kicks out. She hits a Death Valley driver off the top rope, and Riho kicks out. And yes, once again, the people in the building are like, oh, God, Riho. Because the same kind of people are in the building that is in the back. Kenny Olivier with his fucking fetish is why we have to fucking watch this shit, and it was painful. And then after the knee drop to the back of the head, after the Death Valley driver off the top rope, she kicks out. Then Riho gets up fresh as a daisy and Snapdragon. By the way, the sissiest name possible for a fucking devastating maneuver, the Snapdragon suplex, then hits a Northern Lights suplex on Nyla Rose. I wrote here, this is the worst thing they've ever televised, and these goofy fans are loving it. And anybody at home besides their fucking base audience that may be watching are going once again, what the fuck is this shit? Then Riho, after absorbing all that punishment, comes back and it gives Nyla Rose all that shit. Then she hits a double stomp off the top. Then twice. Then 3 times. Nyla Rose has to get a foot on the ropes to break the fucking count. And then she power bombs her. Boom. 1, 2, 3. It's embarrassing. They're putting this fucking little girl in these fucking matches, having her absorb every goddamn thing. At one point, Nyla Rose pulled a table out, because why not? Girls do the tables now, too. The girl that's pulling the table out is already 150 pounds heavier than this fucking little schoolgirl opponent, but she was going to pull out a table. It took this giant woman, and we'll get to that in a second. It took this giant woman everything that anybody could possibly do to another human to beat this fucking little girl, and it buried the giant in the process. The whole thing was fucking ridiculous, and it's offensive. And this is Kenny Olivier booking all over. It's overacted, it's overdone, it's unbelievable, it's phony. It's wrestling done as a fucking video game or anime fight for a bunch of people who want to laugh at silly shit. It's not fucking wrestling, nor is anyone who excuses this a fan of wrestling. Whatever they want to call it besides wrestling, anime fighting or whatever the fuck. That's what I don't understand. You can apparently make this crowd like anything. So why not play it straight and get some other people? Is it me or is it... And when I first saw Nyla Rose, I had no knowledge of this. I said, wow, that girl's fucking huge. She's a beast, blah, blah, blah. Reminded me of Awesome Kong. Then everybody jumps on Twitter and the internet to say, well, she's a trans woman. So she was born a man. And this is a publicly acknowledged fact on the internet, on Twitter, on everywhere. She does not hide this. This is not like information that has come out that she was not wanting to come out. Is the only place that it's never said on the television show where they're trying to sell her as an attraction?
Yes.
What the fuck? I've said this before now that I have all the facts here. Get back to Renee Richards in tennis in the 70s. This has been an issue. You still see people debating it. She was born a man. It's an unfair advantage. Especially not only because of her size, but because of the fact of when it comes down to it, in some people's mind, it's a man fighting a woman, which is obviously an unfair advantage. In other people's mind, it's not. This is a controversy. Make something out of it. And when she's a trained pro wrestler that can do all this shit, come off the top rope and and is 100 pounds bigger than all her opponents, then hammer her through everybody, especially these little fucking schoolgirls. Don't let anybody get any offense. If she can't talk, because we don't know that yet because they never let her, give her a manager. Maybe that would have been something Brandy could have done. Or some type of a female manager that's obnoxious and play on the fucking controversy. What does a heel use to win an unfair advantage? She has the most amazingly biological unfair advantage of all time. And then you find a fucking American babyface that is of legitimate athletic size and credibility, such as most of the NXT women's roster, possibly that has a background in shoot fighting or MMA or whatever, but is a babyface to say, I can take her. I don't care if the advantage is unfair or not. I can fucking take her. And then you've got something going. Just the same way as they missed. If they signed Britt Baker, they should have capitalized on her as a professional woman, as a doctor, as all the attributes that we've talked about. But they botched it, so they've just switched her heel. Well, now they've got the ultimate heel with a legitimate hot button issue in real sports and in real life. And the only place they don't talk about it is on their fucking television program. Who gives a fuck on Twitter? I don't care if she was born a man, a woman, or a fucking Dalmatian. But on the TV show, I want her to draw me some fucking money. Just because the one guy has a fetish for Japanese schoolgirls, this whole thing has to be held hostage to him and his fucking goofiness. And at the same time, you miss these chances to get in the fucking newspapers and on fucking real television programs and have a debate going on about controversial fucking methods in sports. Is that just too fucking cerebral for the dim-witted audience that likes to see a bunch of Japanese schoolgirls dressed up as Freddie Mercury and goddamn video game characters flying into each other for no apparent reason? Just over their heads? Maybe they don't get the psychology of stuff like that because it's over their heads rather than being dumbed down and simplified to the nth degree.
Did you see there was some controversy? Dustin Rhodes even tweeted about it. Because I guess one of his kids is trans, where he was offended by the people that were really, I didn't see a lot of this, so I'm assuming it's out there. I only saw a little bit, that were hammering Nyla Rose for the fact that she did win the women's division championship. I think the most egregious one I saw was the formerly Val Venus, Sean Morley, who had some pretty ignorant and offensive thoughts about this whole thing. Did you see any of that?
I did not. Well, I saw Dustin's. I didn't see Val's. But there's Dustin as a babyface taken up for a fucking heel. If people are going to fucking if something's going to be controversial, if the heel is controversial, then take the fucking heat. If the babyface is controversial, then it gets them over in a different way. I'm just saying, use some of this shit to fucking get some people stirred up and offended. That's what we need in wrestling, is some good old-fashioned offense. For fuck's sake.
Did you see the post-match? Because I know a lot of it happened during the commercial break.
Well, and that's... Well, by the way, don't let it leave us hanging. What did Val Venus say?
I'll pull it up while we talk about this. Let me pull it up.
All right, well, anyway, and then in the post-match, they go to the break again, and in the picture-in-picture, Nyla Rose comes back, and Tony Khan tries to hug her, and she doesn't want any of that. And then, I don't blame her. And then they spend fucking what seemed like, 3 minutes, the entire commercial break, somehow her and Olivier yelling at Olivier, and Olivier just standing there and looking like a putz, as he usually does. And I don't know what all that was about. Is because there was no audio because it was in a commercial. So what was that about?
I don't know. She was yelling at Kenny, and all the other girls just stood back there, heel, babyface, all united.
Well, yeah, well, you couldn't see them real well. They were just little small girls in the background. But why? Why is that? Why was that even happening? Much less something that would happen in picture-in-picture. If it's going to be in picture-in-picture during a commercial break, shouldn't it be visual rather than verbal?
And by the way, in terms of what's acknowledged on air, are we supposed to take from that segment? Because, I mean, we know what's going on behind the scenes. But if you're not someone who knows that, if you're just watching at home and you don't read various websites, are you supposed to take from that picture-in-picture segment that Kenny's in charge of the women's division?
Oh, I'm sure. Well, I think actually it was probably just, I would think if I didn't know that Kenny was standing there trying to get a fucking date on a tombstone with some girl that would talk to him and not having much luck. And then the fucking new champion came in and screamed at him, and him being a top guy stood there with his dick in his hand and did fuck all or nothing. So the women's champion just punked out the fucking world's greatest wrestler.
Okay, I have a couple tweets here from Sean Morley, formerly Val Venus in the WWE. What the fuck is happening to pro wrestling these days? Insane! I feel for all the real females who were denied their opportunity to shine because a male has been given the women's title. Fairness is the issue. Social conditioning is the goal. To all the real, in caps, real women who work so hard to get to where you are, to get to you all are, my heart goes out to you. You will have to wait for the writers to stop their BS before you can continue to thrive. And then he followed that up with the soy boy that always cracks me up. The soy boy social justice warriors and anti-women morons who have taken over the writers' duties in pro wrestling have forced the Big Valboski to adjust his catchphrase to better reflect reality. And there's a picture of him as Val Venus, and it says, "Hello, biological ladies." So he apparently is taking great offense.
There you go. And, you know, he didn't even charge Tony Khan for that. Val Venus just wrote your fucking angle, idiots. That's controversy. That'll get heat, and that'll get heat on both sides. There'll be people for it and people against it. And that's what you want. For fuck's sake. So he did that for free for Tony Khan. Wrote that whole fucking thing out.
I'm guessing he was sitting at home watching TV and said, I just need to share my thoughts with all the legion of Val Venus fans out there.
There's your angle, because it's real.